Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, 6:02 p.m. This is the bi-monthly meeting of the Norwalk Conservation Commission and Inland Wetland Agency. Could we have the roll call, please? Thanks.
Steve Clackey,
I'm here.
Ed Holowinko,
Yo.
Heather Breslin,
Here.
Cheryl Brown.
Here.
All right, so you have four, you have a quorum. There you
Awesome.
go.
Thank you. Do we have anyone dialed in for public comment?
Let's see. So if you are logged in not as a panelist and wish to speak on a non-pending application issue, you can use the raise your hand function to make a comment. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay where you are and watch the meeting. And I'm thinking we'll move you over. I don't see any.
How's the volume? Is the volume okay?
So good.
You're good.
Okay, so we'll move on to S24-633, 189 Perry Avenue, corrective action.
All right, so I'll just start with a quick overview just to get your bearings. It's a corrective action application that was issued following a notice of violation that we issued when there was some work done on the property within the upland review area of the Silver Mine River. So here is the northwest corner of Norwalk. This line here is the line with New Canaan over here. So here's Perry Avenue, the Silver Mine Elementary School. This is kind of the one at a time bridge over the Silver Mine River and Silver Mine Road here. And the property is here at 189. And the activity in question is generally limited to this area here. The notice of violation cited the installation of drainage systems coming out from these two corners of the house there were some trenches dug with pipes and I believe ending in dry wells. And then additionally, what was cited was the expansion of the driveway, which is this extension of the P-stone area from approximately here over to here, and then some additional gravel that's in this area. So that's kind of the locational information. Mr. Carter, the property owner, is present. Some of the pending, some of the application materials that have been submitted are on the pending application webpage. But Mr. Carter, if you want to just kind of this is the receipt of the application. The commission is not going to be able to make any decisions tonight on your application. It's their initial receipt. And so they're kind of looking for just a very brief overview from you.
So
and then
can I make an opening statement? Am I allowed to do that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, usually we try to let Mr. Carter, we try to let staff finish what they're saying before we jump in. Just in case they throw anything special at us, we don't want to miss it. But the floor is yours now.
Oh, thank you.
You bet.
Okay. First of all, it's important for you to understand as a group that I am an environmentalist myself. I'm an avid fisherman. And in fact, I'm going to be on a television show this fall for fishing and conservation on the Outdoor Channel in saving the Everglades. I bought this house because the waterfall was there and I'm a trout fisherman and I would do nothing in this world to disturb the river. I want you to understand that. Okay. I submitted the information on where the dry well was on the map. I have invested over $300,000 in this old house since I bought it 2.5 years ago to fix the problems it had, a lot of problems. The extra gravel, I'd like to address the extra gravel. Before that extra gravel was there, that was a mud pit that I inherited from the last owner. And every time it rained, the water would drain down into the river. So I added that extra gravel to dry that up and absorb the water if it comes down the driveway. And that's worked perfectly there. So that's why I added that little bit of extra gravel at the end of the driveway, so that I wouldn't have that mud pit situation. Then I have had the electrical systems all redone in the crawl space. That just finished yesterday. And on March 5th, Connecticut Basement is coming into waterproof the rest of the situation that I had because I had a flood. And I've got over $35,000 worth of damage to the house myself so far from this flood. And now with the new drainage, I have no problems whatsoever. And that's basically, I hope you also, I had submitted a very detailed statement on who did the construction work. These are all local, reputable people that you all know, a very big construction company, but they also did some damage to the pipes, the clay pipes that are over 104 years old, like my house. And I had to redo all those pipes so I could get a decent drainage. There was an original dry well down by the river where I had my guys go in with pickaxes and open up that dry well, clean it out completely, go down another foot. And so that when we have a runoff, there's no water between the gravel and the new dry well. There's no water going anywhere but into the dry well like it's supposed to. That's my statement. I
Okay,
can't hear
so
you. Go ahead. Sorry.
the flood, just to clarify, that was from the drinking water supply line into the house had an issue and burst, and that was the.
Well, no, we had a number of pipes. What happened was the company came. AJ, what are they called? You know these guys.
Penna.
AJ Penna. AJ Penna came after the, AJ Penna, right? AJ Penna came after the subcontractor who had worked on the old pipes, but he didn't know he was busting up some older pipes further down in the ground, about 5 feet down, that had been there for 100 years. So they fixed the pipes on top, but everything busted down below, and then that flooded my house underneath. So then I had other people come and fix all the pipes and put in Orangeburg perforated pipe, which would carry the water well, and got rid of all those. It took 5 days of excavation to get rid of all the old clay pipes that had been there for about 100 years. That was the situation.
And then you mentioned that you had sent a plan that shows that Orangeburg pipe, but I don't believe, was that in your mailed packet?
Yeah, what I did is I just drew a line from the corner of the house out, and that showed where the dry well was, because I think that was the question: where is the dry well? And I think I answered it, but maybe you don't have it.
Yeah, no, I did not receive any map. I received the existing survey of your property you had sent, your narrative, but never a map.
I see. Okay.
So I think for at this point for the app,
I think on here on my phone, I have pictures of exactly what was done. Would you like to see those pictures? Hold on just a minute, please. Actually show you the work. You can actually see the actual work that was done. Hold on. Okay. Now I'm going to send that to you, Alexis, okay?
okay, how about I have some photos that we've put on the webpage, our staff photos. I can show the commission some of those real quick. I think that'll be a bit
I just sent those photos to you, actually showing where the pipe is, the actual man putting in the pipe. It couldn't be more graphic. It should be coming up on your email. Did it come up on your email?
No, but that takes a little while. While we're waiting, I'll just show some of my staff
I mean,
photos.
more than just drawing, more than just making drawings. This actually shows the fellas.
Right,
Yeah.
but as I had said in my email, we
There
kind
you
of need a map, not just the photos, but we need
Yeah,
I had sent you those base maps with the outline of your property and the existing features, and you just need
Yeah,
to
right.
show the
but okay,
driveway.
but you see where the trench, you see where the trench is? Did
Oh, I
you get
do.
the
Yes.
trench? Did you see
So
the
I took
trench?
these photos. Yep. And so this is the
Okay.
Silver Mine
I mean,
River in the background. This is
Right,
December 29th
exactly.
when we issued the violation. Yep. That was one
Right.
trench that ends here. But then when we went out on January 29th, that initial trench was filled in. And then there was a second thing being dug over here. And then this is January 12th. This is where the trench here
Yeah,
is
right.
now buried, and that work was finished. This is the driveway extension area. And then it was my, let's see, let me go back up to this one. This trench here led to the garden here. So this area was disturbed, and it was my understanding that there was a dry well installed here as well from your contractor.
Yeah. So that nothing would go near the river. And I put this extra little spot here, about 15 feet of gravel, because that's where that mud pit was all the time that would go down into the river.
Okay. So there's another trench and a dry well here, and then the gravel area here, and then a gravel area that extends kind of behind this gazebo towards this building in the rear, which is this building, this gravel area. And so I think that the commission understands your well intent, but as we spoke before, the activities that you did are regulated activities and require a permit. And in order to do a permit, they really just need a map also. So if you have done that, it sounds like maybe you've done it, but maybe I didn't receive it.
Okay. Okay. After this meeting, Alexis, if I could have another conversation with you to just make sure I'm doing everything right on the next go around, I'd appreciate that.
That sounds like a good plan. We'll talk again.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I'm nobody who's going to ruin anything about the river. I'm a conservationist myself. I've been on the board of the Save the Everglades Foundation for 20 years.
Sounds good. Okay, I think we've received the documentation as it is and your input. Thank you, Mr. Carter. I think you'll be getting together with Alexis, it sounds like, and we'll talk about it more in a couple of weeks.
Okay. I will. And I'm the kind of person, I will fix this no matter, only to the nth degree. This will be fixed.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
S24-634, 10 Norton Place. Subdivision.
All right. Don't know. Does everyone know where 10 Norton Place is? I can give a quick overview of that location real quick if you like, and then Attorney Suchi is representing the applicant. Just quickly share my screen to get you oriented. Oops. Come on. Okay, so Norton Place, we're headed to the other side of the city. Let's see Westport is just off the screen to the right. Here's I-95, the Metro North Railroad. There's the Westport line. And City Hall is just off the screen. And what you're looking at is this front property here. And with that, I will give the floor to Attorney Suchi. And Liz, let me know if you need me to share any my screen or show anything in particular.
Thank you, Ms. Carachetti. If you could screen share the proposed subdivision map, that would be helpful. But thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Liz Suchi. I'm a partner at Carmody, Torrance, Sandeck, and Hennessy. Our address is 1055 Washington Boulevard in Stamford. I just want to apologize in advance. If my dog starts to bark in the background, I will unmute, quiet her down, and put her in another room. She's a new puppy, and so far she's okay, but if she's disruptive, I will certainly take care of that right away. Present at tonight's meeting as well is Akiva Cobre. He is a representative of the owner applicant. The owner of the property is Norwalk Center LLC. The property, as Alexis described, is 10 Norton Place, District 3, Block 17, Lot 40A. At the time of the filing of the subdivision application, the property was zoned industrial number 2. The property consists of about 37.2 acres. There are more than 1,000 parking spaces on the site. The main building, which is in the center of the plan that is in front of you on the screen, is approximately 635,000 square feet. It was formerly occupied by Northrop Grumman, and in subsequent years, other tenants included Talk Tours, Pepperidge Farm, Catherine Gibbs, and others. To the right of the screen where it says Unit B, that is a 167,000 square foot data recovery center that's on about 5 acres of land. And there is also on the bottom of the screen, it says Test Building. That is a leftover Northrop Grumman test building of about 9,000 square feet. The proposal that's before you this evening is an intermediate activity application to subdivide the property into 3 lots. As I mentioned before, the totality of the property is 37 acres. We propose to subdivide it into 3 building lots, one of which would be where the cursor is right now. It would be approximately that would be the majority of the property, 33 acres. It would include the Norton building, the parking lot along Norton Place, and the parking lot to the east of the Norton building, generally where the cursor is right now. 2 other lots are proposed. One is lot 1A, which is approximately 3.3 acres thereabout, and that would have access off Norton Place. And lastly, there is a smaller lot that's just shy of an acre of land, generally along the railroad tracks where the cursor is now, where the hatched area is. So the purpose of this application, as I said, is a 3-lot subdivision. The reason we are before you is there is a portion of wetlands that extend onto the get my bearings again, southeastern section of the property. There is also a several hundred feet of a watercourse that transverses that section of the property. We are not proposing any structures, any construction, any expansion of the pavement that is in the upland review area that extends from that watercourse and from that wetland area. The only reason this, as I said before you, is because due to a subdivision application and the existence of wetlands on the site, we must submit this application to you. There is no loss of wetlands, no interference with wetlands. There is no impact to the watercourse, no loss of the watercourse, no reconfiguring of the watercourse. And as a matter of fact, there is no activity proposed in the upland review area except for the installation of some silt fencing and some other fence in that general vicinity. So we would ask that you could move this matter forward. A public hearing would be required before the Planning and Zoning Commission that is tentatively scheduled for March 20th, but this is the first step in that process. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, as is Mr. Cobre, but it's really rather straightforward. It's an opportunity to establish new lot lines, 3 lots, 1 large one, and 2 smaller ones. With that, I have nothing further unless you have questions for me.
Were you talking, Steve? We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Ms. Knight, please.
Hi, I have a question. So the application, when you were saying it's just specifically for lot lines, it's not necessarily on the development. Could you just help me if I understand that correctly?
That is correct. This is strictly a subdivision application to establish 3 lots where there currently is 1. Should there be any activity in the future that requires an intermediate or significant activity application, of course, one would be filed. But this, what is before you is strictly for the subdivision to create the new lot lines, establishing 3 lots.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I know that we haven't had a lot of subdivision applications. There's been a real dearth for a while. And you'll see there's a few coming. The Wetland Act requires that any, so most of your applications are based on regulated activities. However, for the subdivision of land containing a wetland or water course, it's required that that subdivision be reviewed by you as well. So in this particular application, as Attorney Suchi mentioned, there's no regulated activity. There's no proposed physical work on the property that would trigger a wetland permit. It's just the subdivision of the land into 3 lots.
I have a question. I'm not clearly seeing the subdivision lines on the plan.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot on, I did, I'm going to outline them. Let's see if I can share.
Is it the unit?
So, yeah, let me just share. So I did the subdivision map that I previously shared is the official map, and then I've taken that and tried to quickly outline because I knew that one of you would probably ask. And so Attorney Suchi, correct me if I'm wrong, but I tried to outline following the meets and bounds of the proposed line, lot 1A or parcel 1A, and then I believe parcel 1B.
That is correct.
This here.
Right. So those are the 2 smaller lots. The lot that Alexis kindly outlined in orange is just over 3 acres. Excuse me, it's 3 acres. The lot outlined in yellow is just shy of 1 acre. And then the remainder of the property, the remaining 33 acres, is all of the rest of the property with the Norden building, the parking lots, drive aisles, and the rest of the site.
And so lot 1B is that the one that has the wetland?
No.
No,
This is the wetland over here on the, whoops, sorry, on the original lot.
Down, okay, I see.
This is the wetland here.
all
A
the
lot
numbers.
of lines in this map.
Yes.
All
And
of
then
all of the-
associated are the 50-foot upland review area and the 100-foot upland review areas this time.
Got it.
And those 50 and 100-foot upland review areas extend into existing parking, landscape islands, drive aisles, and things of that nature. That's not new, that's not proposed, those are existing conditions. So as Alexis mentioned, there is no regulated activity proposed in connection with this subdivision application. It's all existing conditions.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
maybe there's something I'm not totally understanding, but I don't understand what our role here is other than
Yes. So it's
other than to
it-
say well, if there's something we need to regulate, then we will, but
Right, so other than the existing parcel, which includes this land here where the cursor is, it contains this little bit of wetlands and watercourse. And so technically, if you're going to subdivide this parcel, which they're doing over here, the larger parcel contains wetlands, and therefore would trigger a wetland review of the proposed subdivision. But you're right, this is a very wetlands light subdivision.
So essentially what we need to do though is regardless, we need to schedule a public hearing. Did I hear that correctly?
No.
Oh, okay. That's
No.
if there's any significant, great. So
So
then
the,
we're just receiving the information.
right, I think you heard the, any subdivision application is also heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that subdivision application requires a public hearing by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that will be in March.
Got it. That is what I heard. Understood.
Catherine, did you have something?
Yeah, so the new, just to be clear, because there's a lot of lines and I'm struggling to see. The two proposed subdivisions have no wetlands in them.
Correct. Those two lots to be subdivided off, the one outlined in yellow and the one outlined in orange, have no inland wetlands or watercourses on them, nor do they then have any upland review areas extending onto them. They're
Okay, seems
wetlands.
pretty straightforward then for us at this stage, yeah.
We would concur.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we'll thank them for their time and intend to see you at our first meeting in March with, I'm assuming, a draft. What would it be? Not a resolution, Alexis. What would it be?
Yeah,
The
it would be a resolution.
Okay, sounds great.
That would be
Right.
great if you could schedule us for that, your first March meeting.
March 12th.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Good night.
Good night.
Moving on to S24-63 635 280 Main Avenue.
Okay. This is, let me just start with my handy aerial map. Hold on a second. So this is on Main Avenue. Some of you may know it as the old Delinco site. It's currently vacant. Is here on Main Avenue between Perry Avenue to the north and Broad Street to the left. You're at kind of the car wash on Main Avenue. Across the street is this currently empty lot, and this is where the current subject proposal is located. And then again, I think Attorney Suchi, this is your application, and if you need me to share my screen again, just let me know. And you're muted.
I apologize. Thank you, Ms. Carachetti and Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Again, for the record, my name is Liz Suchi. I'm a partner at Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy, 1055 Washington Boulevard in Stamford. And I represent the owner and applicant before you, which is Maine Norwalk LLC. Present during tonight's meeting is Albert Feinstein. He's the principal of Maine Norwalk, and Phil DeGennaro, also representative of Maine Norwalk, Gareth Wilson and Matt Bruton, and I believe, of BL Companies, they're the civil engineers, as well as Sagan Simcoe, who was a soil scientist, wetland scientist, who evaluated the wetlands, the watercourse that exists on site, and evaluated the functions and functionality of those wetlands, watercourse. So the applicant again is Maine Norwalk LLC. The property is 272 to 280 Main Avenue. As Alexis mentioned, it used to be occupied by a structure where Alinco Manufacturing existed. That was a high precision electric motor company. Most of the structures were demolished more than 15 years ago. There is a treatment filtration building at the rear of the property and a shed on the site, and that relates to soils and groundwater remediation that's ongoing on the site. The commission had, some of you may not be aware, but approved a similar application in 2013 for activity within the upland review area in connection with a much larger retail development that included about 95,000 square feet of retail space and more than 370 parking spaces. The proposal before you is once again a significant regulated activity application because there are wetlands on the property and there will be activity within the upland review area. The Wetlands and Watercourse Evaluation Report was dated March 7, 2023, and that was submitted in conjunction with the application materials, along with a wetland impact map, which was dated February 5, 2024, both prepared, as I said, by BL companies. There are no wetlands on the site. There is a pond up gradient from the site and not on our property, but on a neighboring property, which is Rolling Ridge Condominiums. There is an intermittent watercourse about 110 feet on the property, which exists in the northeast corner of the site, and that was created by an emergency outlet from the pond on the Rolling Ridge site, and that exists, as I said, up gradient of our client's property. Perhaps either Matt or Gareth, you could screen share the site plan or the wetlands plan. There is about 17,000 square feet of upland review area that extends onto the site, which is in the northeast corner of the property, and that's from that green highlighted line northbound to the northerly adjoining property owners. The blue on the site reflects the area that are the wetlands, the watercourse, the watercourse functions and values. They provide groundwater recharge and discharge, flood flow alteration, and sediment, toxicant, pathogen retention. The result of these functions would be that water slowly percolates back into the water table, allowing floodwaters to be retained and abating downstream flooding. Nutrients from adjacent residential properties as well as roadways are absorbed and retained within the vegetation in that area. And lastly, the stream provides a contrasting habitat to the surrounding upland forest. The proposal is to redevelop this site with 3 smaller structures: a retail store of about 18,000 square feet, which is in the southwestern corner of the parcel circled there, a smaller restaurant to the north, circled building A, and then a coffee shop of sorts circled right there, known as building B. In addition to the retail store, that would be first floor retail, there would be 10 apartments on the second floor, one of which would be deed restricted as affordable. There are about 195 parking spaces on the site, including EV charging stations in accordance with state statute requirements. The site would be improved with all new stormwater, sewer, and lighting. Right now, as Alexis mentioned, it's has virtually no landscaping except for an area on the eastern corridor running north-south along the Rolling Ridge condos property line. And the proposal calls for more than 40 trees, 180 shrubs, 50 grasses, and many, many perennial plantings, all native and non-invasive species. And there are various sustainable features incorporated into this design, including solar panels on the roof of the largest building, LED lighting, energy management systems for lighting, HVAC water reducing plumbing fixtures, low VOC adhesives, coatings, and sealants. The closest disturbance to the watercourse is about 1 to 8 feet, and that is for site grading and the installation of some parking spaces. The closest structure is more than 190 feet from the edge of the watercourse. There will be approximately, we calculate, 14,000 square feet of upland review area that would be disturbed permanently, and about 3,300 square feet that would be temporarily disturbed. But I do want to make mention again that there's no loss of or activity within the watercourse. The watercourse isn't being altered, it's not being rerouted, there's no activity within, it's all within the upland review area. That is the highlights of this presentation. Just so that you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission has also received an application for site plan review for this development, and it will start its review of the application next month. The public hearing is discretionary on the part of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Just wanted to let you know that. We believe that the proposal before you does not adversely impact the watercourse that exists on the site. And I believe the wetland report that accompanied the application goes into some detail to explain that position. At this point, perhaps, Matt, if you could quickly run through the stormwater management plan, I think that might be helpful. And if you have any questions of me, of Mr. Bruton, or of Sagan Simcoe, we are happy to answer them at any time.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to pick up from where Liz left off?
Please.
Okay. Again, for the record, good evening, everybody. My name is Matthew Bruton. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I work for BL Companies, where we're headquartered at 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, Connecticut. I'll just go back a little bit here to point out some of the things that Liz went into so much detail about, so you can give a visual to match some of her narrative. So this is the existing survey here, just for orientation. Main Ave is across the bottom of the screen where my mouse is now. As Liz mentioned, this is kind of a little over a 5-acre parcel. There's no wetlands on the parcel, just the water course. And the water course I've highlighted here in blue. So you can see that there. Just to give you context of what she's talking about, there is this sluice gate, this picture here from the adjacent development. And to give you a context of the adjacent development, as you can see, this is the pond that's just to the east of this parcel. This is a sluice gate that outlets towards our parcel. As it comes down the hill, load real quick, you can see there's a leaf filled in this photo, but a kind of defined channel for the water to escape. And then it is captured by a head wall and then enters a RCP pipe. So I'll go back to the plan so you can see where this is. So basically the sluice gate is a little bit off the page here. This is the water course that's been delineated. And then there's a head wall right here. From this point on, existing conditions, water is captured within the piping system, goes through the site, and then ends up in the drainage system in Main Avenue. As Liz mentioned, obviously this site is vacant except for the filtration treatment building. Just to point that out, that is in the rear of the parcel up here. And the lines that you see beneath this parcel are the filtration lines that are used for the Superfund site to clean this groundwater. All of this is staying in place. And from our discussions with the environmental person, they will be likely here for quite a while. Just to give you guys a sense of topography, as I zoom into the rear, you can see kind of along the back property line, we're around 125 feet. And kind of when you get to the lower ends here around Main Ave, we're getting into the low to mid 70s, 75, 76. So this water course is a little unique as it's above the property. I think usually you guys, when you're seeing things, the development is happening uphill and there's a potential effect downhill. This is kind of the opposite. The water course is coming towards us here. So as Liz mentioned, just a visual to match the water course in blue, upland review area here in green. And I won't go through the stats of the building and parking, but as you can see, obviously there's no direct wetland impact, no direct wetland water course impact, just stuff within the upland review area. Jump over to the overall drainage plan. So obviously there'll be an increase in impervious area with this proposed development compared to existing conditions. So with part of that, obviously we need to provide a stormwater management plan that complies with not only town regulations and state regulations. And the goal of that is obviously to match existing drainage patterns, provide water quality improvements, and to mitigate peak flows off the property. So we've done that here for the 210, 25, and 100-year storm events. So firstly, I'd like to say that obviously the water course does enter our property, and we are continuing that flow of that water course onto our property and down to the state system. But in addition to that, we have set up a stormwater management system that will capture and treat the roof and pavement that is proposed here. So that's going to be captured by a series of catch basins with deep sumps and hoods within the parking lot, and conveyed to underground storm trap detention systems. There's 2 here on the parcel that then convey the water down to Main Ave as it goes today. So again, everything goes from top of the page to the bottom of the page. So this is a comprehensive stormwater management plan that mitigates peak flows, matches drainage patterns, and does provide water quality. And by water quality, I mean 80% TSS removal. In addition to this plan, we also have a landscaping plan as well, as I know this is kind of a critical component, especially within the upland review area. So again, as you can see, highlighted the water course in blue with the upland review area in green. And we are adding a significant amount of landscaping, not only to comply with zoning regulations, but also to enhance the buffer features to the landscaped areas adjacent to this water course. Obviously, this will be a benefit to the water course and also an aesthetically pleasing site here for tenants and also for visitors. That's kind of a high-level overview of the kind of engineering and site plans. But as Liz said, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have tonight, with understanding that we may be coming back later.
Great, thank you. Is that all from the applicant?
Yeah, I believe at this point, that's all we have to propose, unless you have some questions that you would like us to answer, we're happy to do so. But
Ms. Knight? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to also remind you that, as I said, in 2016, the application, or 2013, when the prior development of the site was proposed, significant activity application was submitted, and that also was approved. And I don't believe a public hearing was deemed necessary in light of the somewhat unusual circumstance that exists. We are down gradient of the water of the pond on our adjacent property owner's land, and we are also somewhat down gradient of the water course that exists mostly on the neighbor's land, but also on ours. Just wanted to put that out there as well. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Knight?
Hi, thank you. I have a question just on the gradients. It's not clear on the plans. I can't quite read what the leveling is and what the impact is. So what gradient level are the parking bays going to? Because seems like there's a little bit of a hill in the corner above the water course. So it'd be helpful to understand what's happening there with the grade.
Yep. So
And what grade
again,
then the
for
water
record-
course is at vis-a-vis the parking?
Yep. Great question, Commissioner Knight. So again, Matt, for the record. So as I mentioned before, obviously you can see kind of in the background here, like the lighter gray, those are the existing contours, right? So you can see 120, 115, 125. But as you come down the plan, you can see these darker contours. So these are our proposed contours. So as you can see kind of in the back here, there's an existing retaining wall that kind of goes along the rear of the property. We are not proposing to go any further past that. So that line is kind of our limit of disturbance. But as I come closer to what you're talking about, you can see that the grade starts to drop dramatically from this upper corner down to Main Ave. So we're starting at 92, 91, 90, right? That's where we kind of get closest to the water course. And I'll just highlight it again so you can see it more clearly here. That's the closest area there. And then there's the head wall. So as we come down from proposed conditions, you can see 89, 88, 87, 86. And then we do introduce in this area, and I'll highlight this in a separate color so it pops out, a retaining wall. Right, so as you can see here, the water course as it's coming into and coming down towards the head wall, pretty similar grade, but higher than us. So 95 to 89, 90 to 88. And then the invert of the head wall, which is approximately here, is around 77. That's where it starts to go underground and underneath our parking lot. And our parking lot is in the 87 contour range. So as this wall kind of continues down, it gets taller as the grade drops towards closer to the road. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Knight?
Yeah, just to understand like the impact, if you put the wall and what's happening on the neighbor's property. So in a flooding situation, because I don't see where the flood lines are for the water course.
Yeah, so this, maybe I can trace it in a thinner line. So this is kind of like it's like a double channeled water course. And maybe we can depict it a little more clearly here to you. So kind of goes this way, right? And then it splits and comes this way, and then it comes back together here. The goal is not to have any impact over our property line, and no impact on the wetland or the water course. And the water course, obviously, in its closest area is not on our property. It does in this location here come onto our property, but again, we're not touching it. We're not coming past this kind of existing retaining wall and grading that exists kind of in this corner here.
Okay, but if you're lowering the grade, then if there's what I'm just trying to understand, like if there's a flood line, like what when it's in flood, what has happened? Where's the water?
Yeah, so this is not a the site is in FEMA flood zone X, right? So there's no floodplain on this property. This is literally just a channel that comes from that pond when that sluice gate is opened.
Yeah, I think she's trying to, I think the question is during high flow events, is the existing head wall on that pipe, does it have enough capacity to take all of that water in, say, a 50 or 100-year storm event? And if not, then where does that water flow overland? Right? Is that kind of where you're headed?
Yes, thank you, Alexis. That was where I was headed.
There we go. Okay. So here, I'll just highlight this again. So the pipe is obviously being maintained, right? It's a 24-inch RCP pipe. It's obviously channeled towards that. We didn't analyze anything, I guess, above the existing pond. I'm not sure how they operate that in terms of, do they let it out slowly? Do they let it out fast? But obviously we're not touching that pond, the sluice gate, or the channel. But if it were to overtop and overwhelm the head wall, it comes off in this direction, which is the abutting residence here, or commercial residential building here, comes into this parking lot. So our
So
goal
I
on
have a
our proposed
question.
plan is to maintain this pipe that comes through our property and make sure it then ultimately connects and discharges to main ave as it does today.
I have a question. So the water currently goes towards the adjacent property in flood conditions, or it will in the future?
So right now, what I'm contending is that sorry, let me move back to this plan. So I'm going to go to the survey. So you guys can see here that this is the pipe, right? So everything goes in this direction, down towards the road. You're asking me in the worst case scenario, does it ever overwhelm this? I'm telling you, I don't know. I don't know the operations of who opens that sluice gate, when, and for how long. But if for some reason, in a worst case scenario, if this head wall was clogged or not operating or blocked, water would flow in this direction. If that's ever happened, I don't know. But our goal is to make sure that this is on our property, opened and maintained to accept the water as it comes onto our property, and to continue that flow down to Main Street.
I think the question or answer is that it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not changing the condition, to how it stands now and what would happen with the water.
Correct.
The proposal doesn't change the water course, its direction, its size. It doesn't in any way alter that water course. So whatever exists today will continue to exist. And if there's a large storm event, however that water course and the sluice gate has been handled, won't be impacted by this development. So we're not changing it, we're not altering it, not modifying it. The modifications are on our property.
Okay. Any other commissioners have questions for the applicant?
Could you maybe just go to the landscaping plan?
Absolutely.
Just wanted the commissioners to make sure that they understood what was being proposed in the upland review area.
Sure. I can get to a bigger blow up here. Hold on one second. Trace the upland review area again for you. It's this dashed line here.
And I know
That's the
that
upland review area.
yeah.
And where was the
This is,
stormwater retention?
So the retention system is here, and then one is also here, slightly
Got
cut
it.
off on this page. But these are the two systems with the ultimate discharge down in this corner here to main Ave, the system within main Ave.
Matt, can you enlarge that landscape plan so the commissioners can see the planting, particularly in Upland Review and along the eastern property line?
Yep.
And so the hatched area, I presume, is a seed mix.
Yeah, so we have some plantings across the rear here. I can go to the species with you guys. And then obviously, yeah, we have some hatching here as well. That's defined on the chart over here. So let me see here. I do you guys want the species TO, AG, and ZS. TO.
Arborvitaes.
Yep.
Writing.
ZS. Zelkovas. What was the last one I said? AG.
Amelinka.
Is the Brilliance Apple Service Berry.
I'm sorry, so there's Zelkova trees in the Upland Review area?
So there's Zelkovas. Let me just make sure I identify them for you appropriately. So yeah, City Sprite Japanese Zelkova is ZS. So that is some of these larger ones here. So there are, I would say 3, 1, 2, 3 in the Upland Review area.
Those aren't native. So we might want to see alternatives in there.
Okay, make that change.
And then I think the other thing that I wanted the commission to be aware of is that the kind of the cobbly area. I'm using my cursor as if you can see that. But yeah, that's kind of a river stone. Is there a reason why it's not vegetated, but has this river stone treatment?
Yeah, so this is some of the this is some of the support equipment for the charging stations. And just to point out the electric vehicle charging stations, I know we pointed that as a kind of a green element to this. There's charging stations in multiple locations on the property to obviously use some of the parking spaces. So those are kind of areas in red. This River Rock area that we said obviously is some of the support equipment. So this is the transformers and some of the support equipment to power these areas. So landscaping, obviously, in terms of access and maintenance of those things would really kind of get a little destroyed and they need some clearances to make sure that the electric company and the charging station company can maintain the equipment around there. So we just do have some river rock in that area to allow them that access. But there, as mentioned before, these hatched areas do indicate not only the shrubs and stuff, but also the slope seed mix and a lawn seed mix in that Upland Review area as well. And that's
Okay.
river stone mulch.
And so those one of the things I couldn't determine. So those are kind of electrical components within there.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So can you just explain like how many feet is the buffer? Because the green line is 100 feet, correct?
Correct. That's your 100-foot Upland Review area from a water course.
And so what amount of buffer are you proposing in this plan? Versus, because you have a parking lot that's pretty close to a water course. Doesn't seem to be a lot of buffer area. And then also, what's the plowing plan? Because that obviously would have an impact. Because this is non-permeable surface, and it looks there's quite a bit of parking in the Upland Review area.
Yeah. Sure. So I'll take that the plowing question first. So obviously the key to the plowing obviously is we want to put the snow into the landscaped areas so that the pavement is safe to traverse and for customers and employees. The key to the non-impact to the wetlands or the water course is that it's above grade, right? So if snow was pushed and piled up into this area, when it melts, it's coming back into the parking lot and doesn't get captured in the stormwater management system. Snow here can't really be pushed up against any of these areas because of the charging areas And even if it was in small quantities, you have a hard barrier here. You have this retaining wall, and we are on the low side, and this is on the high side. So really anything in this corner, there's not going to be any snow or any runoff going towards the water course. Anything that would kind of fall in this area is then just being melted and comes into the parking lot and treated to the stormwater management system.
And how much, what's kind of the distance of buffer that you guys are proposing?
Yeah, so obviously it varies a little bit as you kind of go around. It's a hardscape. There's kind of 15 in this corner here. Somewhere close to the retaining wall. We're kind of getting into the 9.5 foot area. And then obviously, the water course comes to the back of our retaining wall here because that's where the head wall is. So we're getting down to the kind of like that 2 foot, 1 foot area in some of those locations because it's coming into a piped network.
Can I ask, I think the only thing, I'm pretty sure current state is it's a giant dirt lot.
There we go, dirt lot.
Yep, so I will say the one part of me says, thank God put anything there. The other part of me, just a quick question is, so basically where you have it landscaped, right? The planting plan over in the corner. Yep. Those are all additions. There's no further removal of vegetation in that area. I don't even know if there is vegetation to remove.
Let me bring it back to the survey. So you can see, obviously, this is kind of that retaining wall I was talking about earlier, right? That kind of is really encompassing the site. And you can see a chain link fence here, right? So there's of the vegetation that kind of does exist, and I know it's hard to tell from this, it's kind of behind those areas, and we're not going past
it's up on the hill.
That fence line, it's kind of above, and we're not going past that. Just makes no sense to do that. So it's really, we're adding stuff to the buffer as opposed to removing anything and then replacing it.
Right. Okay, good. So I get that. I'm on board for that. Again, I've been hoping that site goes away for a long time. So the other quick question I had was in regards to the EV charging stations and the equipment. Is there a reason that, look, I don't pretend to be any sort of engineer or any sort of anything in that capacity. But is there a reason that it was chosen to go there rather than somewhere outside of the 100 foot?
So it's more not being driven more from an engineering standpoint, more of just a site functionality standpoint. We think it's great to have it as an amenity to the site to promote kind of the green nature of a new development. But as we all know, right, not everybody has an electric vehicle yet, right? So the primo spots in front of establishments with our handicap spaces, obviously by law. And then obviously we're looking for the convenience of the majority of drivers who aren't driving EVs. So we were looking to put them in other higher spaces away from the main entrances because charging times right now can vary, obviously, right? And we don't want someone parked and blocked in front of the building for 20 minutes, a half an hour for a coffee shop when that's usually an in and out experience. So it's more about a functionality and how we see the site operating with the businesses in the future.
And that makes sense. I guess my question to anybody else who knows anything about this is there any risk or thoughts to put in for that being in the wetland, in the upland review area, as opposed to somewhere else on the back of the site? Like, is there anything that we should consider as a committee?
So Commissioner Breslin, before your fellow commissioners answer that, I also want to just point out too that this kind of dark gray band that you see in this upland review area here, that is what's going in and out of this treatment building. right? So this huge swath of conduit that encompasses the site, that's the underground system that's cleaning the groundwater. So
I
I
see.
don't think there's much in quality here because of the
see.
Superfund nature of this site. So we
Mhm.
may be adding some conduits and some electricity in this area, but it's not as significant as what's already going on there. And obviously the system is staying in place till the site has been deemed clean and everything like that. So this is as you kind of mentioned, very highly disturbed, manipulated site over the past few decades. So
I understand. I totally get it, and I just was curious from the standpoint of like where it was situated, if there was any additional risk
great question.
or additional,
Yeah.
but yeah, I totally get it. I get what you're saying.
Anyone else have any questions for us at this time?
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself.
So,
Commissioners, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, commissioners, would you theoretically need to see anything else in this application before public hearing and/or, deciding on it? Is there any piece of information that's missing to you or anything that's unclear?
I think
Obvious-
Cheryl had just asked that some of the plantings be revised to native.
Right,
Not to quote you, Cheryl, I don't.
right. No, I'm sorry. Anything else we haven't discussed? Okay, great. I'm sorry, Ms. Sachi
Well, thank you.
or Alexis, sorry.
No, go ahead, Alexis, if Alexis has other questions or comments. Well, as you know, this is a significant activity application, but before you go to determine if you want a public hearing, you have to make a determination that there is a likelihood to have a significant adverse impact to the wetlands, and that would then trigger the necessity of a public hearing. I think given the circumstances and given the conditions that exist between the existing retaining wall and the conduits from the treatment center and some of the other comments that Matt made, I don't think that there's been a demonstration that there'll be a significant adverse impact to a water course that's largely off our property, that's fed from a pond that's up gradient from us, and all of our activity and impact will be down gradient of that water course. But that is a decision that is left with you, and just let us know what you decide.
I agree with that, Alexis, as long as we're not in violation of our statutes.
I don't remember that from the 2013 application, so I would honestly have to review.
I don't believe there was a public hearing. I just recollection though.
And then I'm reading, hold on a second. Yeah, I mean, I think that so in your regulations, the definitions for regulated activity further kind of parcel those out into minor and intermediate and significant. And then in your definition of the significant regulated activity, you in that definition of regulated activity, it's actually under intermediate regulated activity, you have kind of this declaration about the moving of that 150 cubic yard cutoff.
Yeah.
That that more than that, no activity resulting from the deposition or grading of more than 150 cubic yards be considered intermediate. And so then that's kind of by default significant regulated activity, which means any activity including but not limited to the following, which may have a substantial effect on any wetland or watercourse. But I guess you're not technically making the determination that it is significant. That's up to the commission. I think that so typically when you go to section, scrolling on a second, what is it, 9? Section 9, the agency shall not hold a public hearing on applications unless one is the agency determines that the proposed activity may have a significant impact on wetlands and watercourses, to a petition, or 3, that a public hearing is in the public interest. So I'd say that making that determination and having a significant regulated activity as defined by your definition could be interpreted as 2 different things. I mean, traditionally you require a public hearing for your significant regulated activity applications. But there is a little bit of a difference between a significant regulated activity application and the finding that one is has a significant impact. So I think you're free to talk amongst yourselves and determine what you want to do.
Discretionary.
I guess.
Cheryl, Catherine, Ed, Heather? Any thoughts?
I think the only thing is the definition of what is a significant is something that is difficult for, but I don't think otherwise it warrants.
Okay,
I
all
don't think
right.
it necessarily has an adverse impact, but on the other hand, it is significant activity that's happening within the upland review area. So, and it is for, you know, a commercial site. So, you know, I don't know, on the fence.
Okay, Ed, you're unmuted.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence here. I don't know.
Okay, Cheryl, do you want to chime in, or?
I think I'm kind of with Commissioner Knight, thinking that there is a lot of activity going on in this vicinity. It's all within the 100-foot regulated area.
If I
Okay.
may interject again, though, I think you have to look to what Alexis identified to you as the 3 possibilities under which a public hearing is necessary or appropriate. It indicates that even with a significant activity application, there shall be no hearing unless one of those 3 next options emerge, whether you have to make a determination that the activity may have a significant impact on the wetlands, or there is a petition that is submitted to you signed by a certain number of residents, or that there is a in the public interest. I believe that's what determines whether or not you'll hold a hearing. We're not challenging the fact that this was a significant activity application. Just you need to make a determination as to whether or not a hearing is warranted under section 60A-9A 1, 2, or 3.
And I don't have the 2013 file in front of me, but doing a quick search of all my gazillion records, I don't find a legal notice noticing a public hearing in 2013. I only see the legal notice for decision. If that matters.
Okay, well,
Oops.
I hear, I think, what everyone is saying. You know, obviously the applicant wants to move this along with as little whatever labor as possible. But if it makes any of the commissioners uncomfortable, that we will be in the future, you know, like taken to task for too loosely interpreting the statutes, then, I wouldn't expect you to do anything you're not comfortable with. I honestly don't think there's a whole lot to be gained from a public hearing personally, and they're going to have one for the zoning department anyway, right, Alexis?
Yes, planning and zoning will be holding a public hearing. Obviously, their purview is different than yours, but yes.
Okay.
The public will have a chance to speak.
Okay. Yeah, so just that's my opinion, is I think it's on paper, this is more than what it is in reality. But that's just one opinion. So I think but the majority of you were either on the fence or wanted a public hearing. So I think do we need a motion, Alexis? Or decide
Sure,
whether
I
to
think
do public hearing?
that would be
Yeah, I mean,
appropriate.
I think the question goes down to number 3 because it's a commercial property with 3 things. Sorry, just then
Mhm.
what's the public interest? And if
Yeah.
planning and zoning says that there's public interest and we say there's no public interest, I don't. There's a
How long
conflict.
I mean, when public interest is shown, Alexis, is it usually at the receipt of the application? Like, if somebody's getting together with their neighbors to write a letter or something like that, like, how do we hear about that? It's usually after the receipt, isn't it?
It depends. Often it is the receipt, but you're right. Sometimes it is the second time it's on the agenda. It really depends. Your
14 days in the statute after the
right,
application.
right. So just going back to the language in the regulations, if a petition were signed, it would need to be filed no later than 14 days from the receipt of the application. So the receipt definitely is kind of the trigger. It's the first kind of public, publishing that there is a pending application.
So are we saying then that we'd consider, obviously we can't do anything tonight to move it forward other than to decide whether we want a public hearing or not? Is it an option for us to see what happens in the next couple of weeks until our March 12th meeting, and hearing no public interest at that point decide that we don't need a public hearing? And then if we've decided we don't need a public hearing, then technically we could pass a resolution that day too.
Yeah, I think yes. I think the problem there is for the applicant is if you determine that a public hearing is warranted, then that public hearing, instead of being in 2 weeks from today, is going to be in 4 weeks or more.
Yeah, but if there is for some reason a petition within 14 days, it would trigger a public hearing anyway, wouldn't it? Isn't that the idea?
Mhm.
So no matter what we say.
Well,
I mean,
so we should punt for now if that's amenable to the applicant, is what I'm thinking. Right? Or where is that not the direction you're going, Heather?
well, we're not making a decision regardless. And
we could make a decision to schedule a public hearing
right. I'm sorry. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
making a decision tonight anyway.
on the application itself, no.
Right. I mean, Steve, just so I know others don't feel the same way, but my personal opinion about this is that just because P&Z deems it of public interest, that's the whole site. This is a very specific area of the site. I view this on the whole as an improvement to the site and not, it's definitely, in my opinion, not making it worse. Which I think is one of the qualifications. So I'm okay with not scheduling a public hearing, but that's just for the record.
Cool. Okay.
And so just to clarify, so really what I think the applicant is asking you to determine tonight is whether you determine whether the proposed activity may have a significant impact on wetlands and watercourses. So the public hearing is one outcome of that determination, but that actually has its own things attached to it, and one of those is the public hearing. So I think that that's really the question. So it is a significant regulated activity. Permit application is defined by your regulations because of the quantity of fill. But what you also need to determine is, will the proposed activity have a significant impact on wetlands and watercourses?
I think pretty
significant-
obvious that's a no to me.
So that's what you're looking for, kind of a consensus on.
Okay.
I'd advise you.
Does anybody else have thoughts? I mean, what else are we going to do? Or like, yeah, is the proposal going to have a significant effect on the way the water moves in that area right now? Please unmute yourself
I
first.
think, sorry, just in normal, every day, no. What I'm not clear on, and I don't know that it was answered specifically because they didn't have the information, was in storm events or fast moving when the sluice gates are open, how does this impact those conditions?
Okay, so if there
I
was
don't have an answer for that.
if there was a high volume flow of water, it overwhelms the pipe because we're not touching the pipe, we're not touching the head wall. The water, rather than flowing over the head wall and bubbling up out of the pipe and onto what's now weeds and gravel and sinking into the PCB laden soil, it's going to be dripping out or flowing out onto some landscaping, some rocks. Maybe we'll flood out an EV charger, and then it'll go onto the pavement, which will go to the drains, which will go to the storm sewer, which will go to the street. And so really what we're talking about is that extra water coming up over the top, making its way to the storm sewer, not into a wetland or a water course. Well, eventually it gets to a water course, but you know what I mean. So that's how I see it. And that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to twist anybody's arm, but and the applicant is willing to say, no, that's totally not right. But that is what I soaked from what was spilled, as they say.
Again, what we're proposing doesn't change that pattern, and our activity is down gradient of all of that pattern. So
Well,
something's
the
going over-
pattern, as I explained it, accounts for water not seeping into the ground right there, accounts for water going onto pavement and therefore going to the storm sewer. So we're moving theoretically overflow water from the site into the city storm system, which has its own implications. I don't think those implications are strictly linked to water courses or wetlands. But that, again, I guess it is indirectly, but it's a pretty far stretch.
For our purview is over the one corner, right? I mean, what would happen
Our
to that
purview-
water?
Well, well, go ahead, Alexis, but as I understand it, it's all inland wetlands and water courses in Norwalk, but I mean, it mostly applies to what's happening on the site.
It does, right? So you can't, otherwise you'd be regulating everything, so everything was connected. Water flows downhill, right? So
Steve's making
there's
the
a
case
limit
for
to your jurisdiction. It's activities proximal to the subject wetlands and water course.
Okay, so can anyone say right now that this application will have a significant effect on a water course or wetland? Ed says no. Catherine says no.
No,
Cheryl's shaking her head. Okay, Heather says no. Okay, so then I'm going to move to not require, just so it's official, I don't know if this is even necessary, not
Yes.
require a public hearing for this application.
You're determining
I'm determining
that
that there is
the
no,
proposed activity is not likely to have a significant impact on wetlands and water courses.
that.
Yes,
May I have
I
a
believe
second?
that's your motion.
That is my motion. That's actually, yeah, I was just about to say that. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Heather, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? All right, unanimous.
Okay. So what this means is that we're not going to go ahead and schedule a public hearing. There may still be a public hearing if there is a petition signed by at least 25 people who are Norwalk residents that are over the age of 25 in the next 14 days. Excellent.
Sweet. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
so the applicant just, you know, so, and Mr. Bruton, so you did hear, couple of things that will need to be addressed
Of course.
before, we
Absolutely.
can approve anything next time, but Alexis, I think it's, safe to say you can
Yeah,
have a
I think
draft
it's
resolution.
mostly your landscaping plan. I know that the statements were made that they were all native plants and a lot of them are not native plants. So you may want to just
Correct.
circle back and get that messaging right.
Absolutely.
Sharpen that
Easy
pencil.
change.
And we'll provide a revised
Got
plan
it.
to clarify.
Sounds good.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight.
Hey, Liz, do we have another one with you, or are you gonna say,
No, you don't. I'm done. You're done
All
with
right.
me for one night.
and no barking either, so that's perfect.
No.
Hmm.
Well, have a
right.
pleasant evening.
You too. All right. Moving on to S24-636, 70 Cranberry Road.
All right. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so this is, you're gonna circle back to along the municipal boundary. This is the Westport line here. This is the subject property at 70 Cranberry Road. There's Newtown
We
Ave
can't see
and
your
shoot.
screen if you're trying to share it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thought I double clicked.
Was this former open space?
No,
Okay,
no. So now that I'm showing my map,
thank you.
got a little, looks like I've drawn a
If we
little.
had an open space inventory, we would have been able to answer that ourselves.
But no.
I said former, I mean,
You do have a open space inventory. This was not on that inventory. So it's this parcel here. It was previously subdivided and this was carved off a long time ago prior to the current owner owning it. This is the Westport line here. So a little bit of the property is within Westport. This is the White Barn property, which I think you might be thinking of. This area here where there's a pond and wetland, this is open space. The city and the land trust have a
Yep.
total of 3 easements over this part of the land, as well as easements over land up here on the adjacent property. But this property here contains if I can get rid of the little arrow, seems to be staying. There is a house and another structure on the property. That has wetlands and water courses throughout it. And what they're proposing is a 3-lot subdivision of land. So that's just your kind of locational overview, and I will stop sharing and give the floor to the applicant to introduce the proposal.
Good evening. For the record, Andy Sumalides. I'm a principal and professional engineer with Land Tech out of Westport. I'll just start sharing my screen.
And
kinda
I
zoom-
will, I didn't want to interrupt. Well, I'm interrupting. I'm sorry. I'm gonna interrupt, but I just wanted to mention to the agency members that I did send a preliminary review letter to the applicant. I believe that you have that in your packet. That was it. Go ahead, please, Mr. Sumalides.
Sure. So this is a zoomed in version of where Alexis left off. So the property in total is about 3.2 acres. There's an existing driveway here with a bridge crossing that gets you to the 2 structures mentioned earlier. So there's a single family residence here and also a detached accessory dwelling unit, 2-story building here. Also to note, there's also a right of way here that accesses this property as well, with another bridge crossing. So there's 2 ways to get into this site. Currently, it is traversed over this bridge crossing. Some of the coastal inland wetland resources on the property are, there's a pond here that's tributary to the Stony Brook. It kind of flows out in this direction and meets up with the brook off of here. So it's this pond and the pond in that open space mentioned earlier to the north here that flows through our property. And they kind of converge right here in Westport. Here's the Westport Norwalk town line here. Also obviously associated with these ponds and brooks are wetlands. So you see a 50-foot wetland setback as well as 100-foot watercourse setbacks on this map. I know there's a lot of lines on this map, but it's better shown on our site plan. You'll see that shortly. So that's kind of, and there's some existing vegetation, kind of outlining the perimeter of the properties. This is an existing gravel drive as well as this existing gravel drive. The property currently is serviced by septic and well, and as part of the proposal will be on sewer and city water. So maybe you guys are familiar with, but White Barns put in a private sewer main off of their property, and we have the rights to tie into that sewer main. So you'll see that as well in this next slide. So here's what we're proposing is a 3-lot subdivision. Basically 3 rear lots. You can see here's the access way for this rear lot, as well as 2 access ways here that get you to these 2 lots. So conceptually, we've shown here, we would maintain that existing gravel drive, maintain this existing crossing, and continue the driveway to 3 residences with associated easements over those driveways that aren't on the property. More of a zoning thing, not a conservation thing, but something to mention. As well, there is a crossing here. One of the comments in the preliminary was that we can only service 2 homes off of this drive. So we will be modifying this plan. So you'll see that next at the next hearing, where we'll be using this crossing to access this property. There's currently an existing driveway there, so we would just come off of this crossing onto our property. So and then we'll eliminate this driveway here. So that's just jumping ahead a little bit to some of the comments from staff. Also associated with this property is the floodplain. So you can see here, there is a FEMA floodplain, and this is a riverine situation. So you can see base flood elevation 95 here. As you go down the page here, there is base flood elevation 93. So you have 93, 94, 95 kind of traversing through this section of our property. This line with the 2 triangles is the floodway. We're not proposing any work within the floodway. This line here, the floodway and the floodplain kind of converge here. So you can see here, here's the floodplain traversing the rear of this property. This line here is floodplain and floodway, and then floodplain here as well. So you can see a little bit of areas where they overlap, and then some areas where the floodplain extends further into the property than the floodway.
Andy, could you explain the difference between the 2, please?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but it.
No worries. So the floodway is basically an area you can't do anything within, right? In terms of filling and that such, to kind of explain in layman's terms. That's the carrying capacity. The floodplain also has that same regulation from a zoning perspective of equal conveyance and capacity. So in riverine situations where you're not tidally influenced, when you do fill a property in a riverine scenario, you do have impacts to adjacent properties. You fill in a tidal situation like on the coast, you're really, it's like putting a boat in the water. It's not going to change much of the sea rise in that situation. But when you're a riverine situation and you really want to maintain those flow patterns, that's kind of really the difference between a floodway and then the floodplain. And the floodplain you can fill, but then you also have to compensate for it, right? So where you're filling, you need to do some cutting to compensate to still maintain that same capacity within, basically a volume calculation of carrying floodwaters.
Thank you.
So there's also here in red is basically the floodplain based on elevation. And then that line is not guided by FEMA, but that's what, if you were to basically do a LOMA, which is a letter of map amendment on your property, and you were to remap this property, that's where the flood zone line would be based on elevations. But from a zoning perspective, when you're talking about equal conveyance and the such, you're really talking about this line that's actually mapped by FEMA. Again, there's the new code that you guys are familiar with that's out, so some of this would require some clarity moving forward if this subdivision were to be approved on how that's interpreted and handled. But we're under the old code now for the zoning regulations for these lots. And what that allows us to do is, it's mentioned in one of our alternatives, is coming in here with a private road and a cul-de-sac, and we'll share that plan with you. We have that plan, which we'll submit as part of our application. And then servicing these 3 lots, which would be under the new code. And that's what you'd have to do under the new code. But under the old code, we're allowed to have these access way to rear lots. So that was the impetus by trying to get this in before the new code, which would allow the development of the splitting up of the lots in this nature. So that's kind of the site layout. As I mentioned earlier, site utilities, you'd have propane servicing each residence. We do water and sewer, as mentioned. Water would come and we would strap basically to this bridge to get water through the property and across the bridge and out into Cranberry Road. Sewer, as I mentioned, is servicing the White Barn property through our access way here. They have a sewer easement over ours, and then we would just tie our sewer into that line here, which already goes through that bridge crossing. Electric, there's an electric pole not shown on our plan, but we'll get that location 100% nailed down, and we would come off with electric to our underground electric from this location as well. So all of our utilities, there wouldn't be any direct wetland impacts with putting them in. So that's sewer, water, gas. Moving forward to our grading and drainage plan. And again, one thing Alexis pointed out in her comments was what we just talked about filling within that floodplain. So this floodplain is this line here, and you could see we have some improvements there. There is room to relocate this and minimize or eliminate all the grading within the floodplain. So we're looking to address that comment by removing any disturbance actually within the floodway and the floodplain. So then we won't have to do any additional grading. So it'd be very limited grading. As I mentioned earlier, it's a gravel drive. All these we're looking to do soft, basically low impact development, stormwater improvements on this site. So the driveways would kind of manage themselves with gravel drives. And then as well as all of these individual underground detention systems that would service each house. Again, very conceptual in nature. If this were to move forward and get approved, each one of these individual lots would have to come before you with an actual house footprint, house design, and final drawings. So, but we will eliminate some of those impacts that, as Alexis mentioned in her preliminary report. So that's it in a nutshell for the stormwater. It meets the City of Norwalk's drainage standards for water quality, as well as reducing the peak flows from the 2 to 100-year storm.
So to clarify again, we're in the situation where we're, correct me if I'm wrong, approving the subdivision, but not any activities? Is that
Correct. So
Okay.
again, it's a subdivision application. This is a bit more standard than the
Yep.
other one was definitely an oddball. So
And-
you are considering the activity of taking one parcel and making it into 3 separate building lots. And in addition to just understanding kind of where the lot lines are, in order for you to make an informed decision about the potential short-term and long-term impacts to the wetlands and watercourses that a subdivision would have, we require that subdivision applicants show at a minimum, like how would these lots be developed, because you, as the wetland agency, are interested in kind of the actual character of the land. You know, you want to know if there are steep slopes or where the wetlands are, or where other physical barriers to development are. And then you also want to understand the full scope of all the things that need to happen for development to occur. So things like, do they need to make room for an on-site septic system? And for this one, they're saying we're going to connect to the sewer. Is there room for stormwater drainage? Is there room for the house and the driveway? So that you get an idea of, okay, a reasonable sized, in the future. Potentially you could have a 3-lot subdivision and maybe only one of the lots requires a return for a wetland permit for the actual construction. For this one, I think all 3 would be returning to you. And generally as long as the you're kind of approving these preliminary, kind of the concept of the preliminary plan. And so when the applicant returns in the future, if the subdivision is successful, as long as that the final plan is fairly similar to the preliminary plan, you're kind of wed to it a little bit.
So just to follow up on that,
Yep, I was just going to say, so typically for a subdivision application, you wouldn't see any required work unless there were common elements that were required. So sometimes there's, for example, the crossing. There was a previous application for a 3-lot subdivision that was withdrawn for this lot previously, and they had proposed a private road, and that required a expansion of the access way into the property, including an expansion and revision of the bridge that is there. So if it's determined that the bridge has to be replaced as part of the subdivision, that would be part of the subdivision permit, kind of the common elements. If that makes sense.
On that note, like, where does the sewer connect? We have to cross that stream to get to the sewer, or no?
No, so the sewer already crossed that stream with the white barn
Oh, okay.
development.
It's already on this side, the north side.
It's
of the
already
stream.
on this side, so we can connect right in here, yeah.
Got it.
so this I just want to understand one thing, which is, this is all currently one lot with several residences?
One lot with one single family and one accessory dwelling, basically. It's got a residence in the garage. It's a 2-story structure. It's on the building vision appraisal, it's a residence. It's got 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, 1 bath above the garage, basically like an in-law type accessory dwelling unit, which is this smaller structure, and then this structure here is a single family residence.
So it's demolition.
Under the current zone, the new lots could have a primary dwelling and then could also have an accessory dwelling unit.
Right. So we're looking to demo those 2 dwellings.
Right, that was my question.
And build 3 new. Correct.
Okay,
And
I
get
just
rid
have
of
a
Go ahead.
clarifying question, because you've got the subdivision proposal shows 3 kind of panhandled lots, saying that they, in theory, have these 3 access ways. But what you're proposing or showing on the plan is that they wouldn't utilize those. They would have a shared road potentially.
Correct. So what we're going to be revising is you can only service 2 off of 1 common drive. And we did 3 off of a common drive. So we
Okay.
made a little bit of a rookie mistake there. So we're going to add, there's a driveway here. Currently, we're going to come off of this driveway to service this house. And then this driveway goes away. So this existing common drive that currently is there, will maintain and service these 2 homes.
So is that for the 3rd drawing that you wouldn't have coming off being the 3rd one? Is that accessing a panhandle or subdivision that's currently part of the existing property, or is that a right-of-way deeded easement on the Norwalk Land Trust White Barns property?
No, this is ours. So what
Okay.
happened, some of the history behind it, and maybe Alexis knows better, but
Yeah.
this property was once owned by this guy. And then at one point was trying to get an easement or buy this. They bought this, they give this to themselves. And then they gave the easement back to the White Barn for the sewer to come through here. Because at the last application for this, I think there was some concern about this crossing with the previous commission of a private road and widening that bridge. A private road needs to be 22 feet wide, where this private, this driveway could be 10 feet wide. So there was some concern there. He was trying to getting access through here for his lot so he could do a 3-lot subdivision and not have to put in a private road. So he did that, but never went back before you folks and then sold the property. And here we are implementing his idea.
So he
Yeah,
has
Yes.
that, that's not an easement.
Nope, this is our property.
That is owned,
Okay.
right.
Right.
So the previous owner, it was part of a settlement with the Connecticut Friends School, who were the contract purchases of the White Barn property before the White Barn property was developed as a conservation development that it is today. And part of that settlement included the acquisition of the strip of land,
Right.
giving the previous owner 2 points of frontage on Cranberry Road, which he was eager to have.
Right, so from a zoning perspective, you need 25-foot wide access way, right? Or 25 feet of frontage to have a flag lot or a rear lot. So here you see 25, 25, and 25. We are using one driveway here to service 2, and we will have another driveway here that services this. And both those driveways exist today, and both crossings exist today, and we're not proposing any work to
Do we
those.
have an aerial overlay of the property right now in the,
I could pull one up.
Yeah, I have a current one, if you want to stop sharing for a minute.
Sure.
I'm
And
trying
then
to
I would say
crane my
that
neck on the,
for the for both bridges, I think that it would be important for the commission to understand the kind of confirm the structural capacity of both bridges for access for both the construction machinery and then just for use. I know there.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a structural engineer to look at them, but
Mhm.
we've had heavy equipment go over both of them.
Did they go once or come back? No, I'm joking.
Oh, they went, and we've had a lot of heavy
Sounds
equipment. I don't know if you saw this site before. The current owner bought it, but it was a mess. There was a bunch of debris and stuff all over the site. So I don't know if you folks had a chance to go there, but he had an army out there, maybe 30 vans and trucks, cleaning up the site, taking all the debris off site. So it's in a much better shape today than it was when he bought it, 4 months ago. So.
Right. All right, so here's
thank you.
here is the property. This is not updated to show the existing access that's here. We just don't
Right.
have
I can see it on Google though,
see
yeah.
that. The existing homes, you can see that this is the pond. There's kind of these lawn areas and then trees. Here's crossing, the existing crossing here. This is the Stony Brook here. And then the other crossing, let me just switch to, that was back in 2017. 2018, you can't really see it either. Let's keep going. One of these you can see. Let's 2018, bridge. You can't quite see it there. Still can't quite see it. There's some pines in the way, but you can kind of see some of the material and stuff that was stored in the back. Let me just go to the yes, and this is
There
the
you go.
other bridge right here.
Right.
And then your access ends, it's kind of curves up right at this property line. So this is another property. So, and then again, today, oops. Oh dear, I've asked too much of my laptop. Well, there we go. You know, White Barn is pretty much finished construction. That is all access from Newtown Avenue. They have no access from Cranberry Road. So did that answer for the aerial photo? Was there anything in particular we're looking for, or just the lay of the land?
Yeah, I was trying to look on Google, right, on
Okay.
Google Maps on my side, and I wanted to understand the boundaries of what the 3 proposed lots were. So that was helpful. Thank you. I do see on Google that there's a lot more. I assume this is a fall, winter.
This is a March, right? So for wetlands, I like the March before leaf out because you can see more of the
Yes.
ground.
Yep.
And then once the leaves are out, I mean, it looks nice, but it's, you know, it's hard to see. So we generally have a fall and October and spring.
Yeah, the only
This
reason I
brings-
bring it up, Alexis, is that it
Yep.
seems to me like that back lot is a lot of tree cover. I
Mhm.
think at least, and looks like from the Google that I'm looking at, it looks like the back lot where the 3rd subdivision was proposed is a lot of existing tree cover, and I'm not sure where the boundaries for the wetland are, but it to me seems like a significant
Yeah,
change.
I didn't get to that slide yet, but I have a landscaping plan. I'll show you.
Okay. Unfortunately, I have to leave on that cliffhanger, so but
Oh, that's
Thank
right.
you.
You needed to leave.
yeah, I'm sorry. You still have a quorum, so right. Sorry. Okay. I apologize. Thank you.
I'll go back to
Diana.
sharing. So that's also part of our site plan is fairly robust erosion and sediment control plan. Obviously, each lot would come in with their own as well. But this kind of shows, you know, double silt fence, hay bales is what we would recommend at least for each individual lot. Here you would see the minimal amount of trees that we're taking down. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trees. You can see all these bigger trees, and that canopy is to remain. And here's our landscaping plan that we're proposing. A lot of landscaping around the pond, along this pond / Stony Brook here. Some trees coming into the property, some street trees and the such, trees and shrubs. I'm no expert in landscaping, and our landscaping expert isn't on the call today, but if we need to go into more detail, we can at the next hearing. Also, as part of our submission, you received an environmental report from our soil scientist and ecologist, as well as a pretty robust invasive species control plan on this property. So again, I know this is a high level overview of what we're proposing. We did get Alexis' comments, and there's some minor tweaks I think we need to make, but I think we had easily addressed all of those comments. More than happy to hear if the commission has any other comments we'd like us to take into consideration. Thank you.
So this is also a significant regulated activity application. If I Have my brain on straight?
You are correct.
Yes.
But I'm gonna make the same arguments Liz did, so here you go.
You can
Whatever
try,
Liz
but I
said,
don't know.
whatever Liz said.
Andy, could you show the drawing again that has the building setbacks along with the wetland upland review and water course upland review lines?
Sure.
And I just want to kind of remind the commission that at the end of the day, that's really what you're looking at. The, I appreciate the kind of potential landscaping plan and the, the limits of disturbance. But those, if you were to approve these lots, that doesn't bound the owner of the lots from coming in with a different application. So I just want to remind the commission, because it's hard, sometimes it's hard to kind of remember that it's that the applicant has to show those things preliminarily to show you that it can be done, but that's not necessarily what's going to be proposed. That makes sense.
But it probably creates friction to approve a plan now and have that exact same plan pretty much submitted when it comes time to request for the construction.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's why I think it is important. Maybe I'm
Yep.
hearing what I'm saying over what you're saying, but it is important to look closely at this because it will create trouble later.
Right,
If we approve it now and then just say, oh, we know we can't do it actually.
right. So
Can we also get the 50-foot setback
Sure.
highlighted as well?
So in red, what I'm doing is from a zoning perspective, building setback lines.
Yep.
Which is basically 40 feet around the property boundary. And blue is the 100-year again, 100-foot water course. And then 50-foot wetland. I'm going for that now.
Yeah, so as he draws that, I mean, we've got all of the houses will be within the 100-foot water course upland review area. And we've got, it looks like all of them are within no. One
just
of
this
them,
house
one of
here,
them is
yeah.
within the 50-foot wetland upland review area.
Correct.
And now, do we have any idea? I mean, we don't have any
Yeah.
idea what will be proposed for decks, patios,
No,
all that stuff too,
no,
right?
we didn't get into that detail, but what we did put together is, and I think where you're leaning towards is on our E&S plan, this is our C 4.0. Based on what we showed, we put some square footage in areas, what's within 50 foot, what's within 100 foot.
Okay.
The 100 foot's inclusive of the 50. So this is kind of the limits of disturbance of what we're looking for based on our plan.
Okay. Could you go back to the marked up one you just did and
Yep.
then zoom in a little bit for us
Sure.
on just the, from the creek over, from the river over? Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. What is the closest dimension, Andy, between the wetland and a house?
Closest.
Each of the three. And I hope you don't mind me
Yes.
calling you Andy, but I tried to remember how to pronounce your last name and then it slipped my mind. So
No,
I don't-
Andy's perfect. So lot 3, I'm just doing this in my CAD on the other screen, is 33
okay.
feet. So from
I'm
this
sorry.
corner to the wetland is 33 feet.
33.
This corner to the wetland here, 70.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, the closest is probably from here. Is 88.
88.
Yeah, basically wetland flag B5 to the back of this house is 88.
So we have one building, lot 3 looks to be pretty close, but 1 and 2, I mean, and that this is just my estimation and my whatever. The other 2 seem to have a decent
Mhm.
space between, and then the flood plain. Now, the floodplain line is drawn now as it is with the existing topography. Is that true?
So there's both. One is based on FEMA flood map, which is this blue line
Okay.
with the FL,
Yep.
and then it coincides with the floodway,
Yeah.
comes back out here, and then coincides again with the floodway.
Oh,
and it
right.
comes
Then there's
back
the
out.
red one. Right.
And
Okay.
exactly, the red one's based on elevation.
Okay.
Right.
So we're actually pushing the flood zone. Let's see, which way are we pushing
So-
it?
So it's not,
It's too late today
um,
for this.
yeah, and this is not zoning, but it's my understanding from information that we've received from the flood manager from the state, is that the floodway, the location of the floodway is where it's mapped on the FEMA firm maps. The floodplain, when it has, when it's a AE zone or it has elevations, should be shown along that actual contour. And so that's where that red line comes in, is the actual elevation of the base flood elevation on the site today based on its elevations.
Okay, so as is, all 3 houses are within the flood zone based on existing elevations. But if we're looking at the blue line or the cyan line, that would be the line after, and none of the houses are within that floodway or flood zone. Is that accurate? Struggling.
I think the opposite.
The opposite.
This is what exists based
Blue is
on
what
like, if you-
exists. Okay.
Yeah, if you go on the FEMA flood maps, this is
Got
the line.
Okay. And then so
Based on
after-
site conditions, current site conditions,
Right.
that's this line.
Right. Okay.
So we would, and what I'm saying is that it's my understanding that zoning would be going by the red line.
Yeah, we need confirmation that zoning is calling this the actual line.
'Cause we just went through this with another one, so I'm
Right.
pretty sure that they're gonna use the red line. The floodway line will stay the same. The blue floodway line will be the blue flood, will be in the same location, but
The floodplain would change.
right, the floodplain would be the red line.
Okay. So just for the sake of saying consistent with zoning, so all 3 houses at least as drawn now would be within the flood plain. Okay. All right. That's the information I wanted to know.
Okay.
Any other commissioners have
I
more
just
questions?
have a question just to get clarification. So the setback lines are, if you did that, then whoever developed the properties could potentially work within the setback lines to make proposals for the structures as well as any peripheral structures or decks, patios, etc. within the, they're not necessarily going to put the residences kind of skirted back. And I don't know what the square footage is of the houses or the zoning that is for what would be permissible building area, or you have people wanting to do improvements or additions to the property.
Right.
Yes.
Correct. So I guess to answer that, these are just conceptual 40 by 50 foot rectangles, basically a 2,000 square foot footprint. Not working in trying to stay out of regulated areas and the such. If somebody were to come back, they could easily, maybe work around this and this sticks out a little bit more, so on and so forth. But we just threw on generic rectangles on this map. Because if anybody is to develop these lots, if this subdivision were to be approved, they'd be before you again. And then if they show something with the house here, you have the discretion to say, well, we approved the subdivision, we saw a house that was tucked up close to the setback. That's what we thought we were getting. Please rework your plan. And if we're showing, big patios and decks off the back of the property, you guys have all that authority to say, that's not happening. So we didn't show any decks, any patios, or any of the such. Again, we just showed a 2,000 square foot footprint, just showing kind of conceptually what would fit on here.
Okay. Any other commissioners have questions?
Okay, so you're slated to come back with a revised plan showing the change in the physical access for the proposed lot 2.
Mhm. Correct. And as well as address the balance of your comments. And yeah, we'll just have to look at that floodplain line and equal conveyance and compensatory storage and making sure we could adhere to that zoning regulation.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll see you again, I'm sure, in March.
March, Alexis?
March 12th. We'll have you back on the agenda no matter what for March 12th.
Okay.
And see how things
Yeah, we'll
stand.
try and get your stuff into this week.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Awesome. Thank you all for your time.
Good night. Thank you. Okay, moving on to discussion and/or decision on S23-631, 207 West Rocks Road.
Okay, so
Corrective action.
this was an application that you had previously received, and you had some comments for the applicant at the last meeting, and just posted earlier today are some revisions. So I'll share my screen. So some of the comments at the last meeting included a encouragement for the applicant to show the upland review areas of the wetland watercourse, include a plan to replace some of the shade trees that were removed from within the upland review area, firm up the number of proposed shrubs, and add a seed mix for ground cover in the disturbed wetland area, as well as the proposed buffer, which was encouraged to be widened. And so the applicant heard you. Provided some, so this is the latest on the pending application webpage. It was received yesterday, as I noted. And read it at your leisure. I'm going to scroll down. So the applicant is proposing, let me just go down to here. The pre-existing and the existing remained unchanged. But here is the proposed. Zoom in, and the applicant is here. And so if you want to maybe narrate again, and I can share my screen while you talk.
Appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, Ms. Carachetti. I believe you all are kind of generally familiar about what our project obviously was and what the corrective action against our project is, in the application phase 4. The revisions that Alexis just mentioned actually are all delegated on this map. With regards to the first revision that obviously the commission wanted to see was the delineation lines of the upland review from the 50 feet of wetland, which is obviously shown as the gray kind of shaded line. That is from the edge of the upland, or sorry, the edge of the wetland delineated by obviously the soil scientist, Mr. Bill Kenny, with inclusion of the buffer zone right there, as you can see, with certain markings I can explain right after. And then the outer orange ring is going to be the 100-foot upland review from the water course, which is actually the corner of the property where the drainage pipe from the city of Norwalk actually flows into that river stream back there. So basically with those changes, obviously you can see them depicted on the map, came the buffer zone. Obviously, we recently met 2 weeks ago and proposed the 5-foot. Obviously, you guys were not comfortable with that proposed. So we obviously wanted to go significantly higher with doubling it and basing it off of what Alexis recommendations were with the soil mixture. We actually took it straight off of her recommended website, which was the New England Conservation Wildlife Mix, which is approved obviously on her behalf. And obviously it worked for what I was looking to put in that area. Regarding the plant schedule, those are all actually plants directly off of the Norwalk Conservation website, moisture tolerant plants and trees that are obviously recommended by the agency to be placed in the wetlands and around the buffer zone. Each plant basically is going to be delineated in the area and placed in certain positions that would obviously benefit to cause density to the area, along with the newly placed ground covering of the New England Conservation Wildlife Mix, with obviously the hay mulch and everything else that is required to cause that to grow in a beneficial, eco-friendly manner. Now, obviously, you can see on the map the added 3 trees. The reason 3 is based on of what my maps and what my yard shows. The originally 5 trees that were taken down, 3 of them were in that upland review area based on the map, either the 100-foot from water course or the 50-foot from the wetland. So basically what happened is I decided that 3 would be beneficial because it replaces those 3 that were removed in that area. Obviously, these are trees that are shade trees. They are wetland basically friendly, and they also came off of the Norwalk site recommending these red maple trees in that buffer zone, or obviously in the area of that, not approximate. But based off of that, yeah, I think that this proposal, definitely shows a much more eco-friendly environment for that wetland and the protection and conservation of it. Pretty much what is shown is going to be the 12 plants based on their density and their height. Each is obviously going to be a minimum of 3 feet when planted, and then the trees would be a minimum of 1 inch in diameter when planted. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves on that plant schedule, but yeah, I mean, and pretty much the other, I think it was the other recommendation was sorry for the note checking here. I just want to make sure I touch on everything. And obviously, yeah, just the revision of the buffer zone delineation would be just some kind of rock delineation, no structural building or any kind of rock wall. It would just be pretty much what I believe Chairman the chairman touched upon last time we were talking about, just a delineation of that buffer zone. So yeah, so those are obviously were my revisions and the added elements to this whole proposed project.
Okay,
So I just want to point out, I don't think it has anything to do with the kind of the content of the application, but I think your scale is off. I just noticed that this is, I think this dimension is 50 feet. And then, so that would be, I think that the 50 foot from the wetland actually ends up coming something closer to out here.
Okay, I might be off, yeah, just here.
So just so the commission
Sure.
knows that the upland review areas, I think are off by a little bit. But
So I
the scales off a little bit, but
Yeah, so the measurement based off of what my perception was of my fence line to the wetland actually measures exactly 100 feet. So obviously that's why I tried to base it off of that. I have a
okay, so the fence from here to here,
correct, yeah. So that's why I basically split it down the middle based off of
Gotcha.
from the wetland. So that actually would be the 50 feet from that previously placed flag that would be at the corner by Mr. Kenny.
gotcha.
Yeah, so it's just unfortunately that's just the approximate area.
But you're proposing to have a 10-foot wide buffer from the limit of the wetland going out to your, I'm just gonna scroll down to the there's a wetland flag at the end of your split rail fence.
Correct.
And so you'd come out 10 feet and then the silt fence is roughly the silt fence is the wetland area, and you'd come out from the brown lines on your plan are the rock wall and the fence. So you'd come out 10 feet from them and loop around, something like that.
And obviously, sorry to interrupt, Alexis, based off of obviously what you just showed the commission members, the existing lawn, those are obviously photos of the existing current state of my, backyard. Would obviously the 10-foot buffer would actually almost move into that existing lawn area. So obviously that's why I felt, the 10-foot definitely I felt would be, obviously it's going to be up to you guys, but I definitely felt that that was a significant size buffer for protecting and obviously maintaining that area just based off of where the yard pre-existed. And those are, the recreational lawn area.
Do commissioners have any questions for Mr. O'Connor?
I think the plants that are in the wetland should probably be placed in the buffer. That would be one recommendation. Because there's a bunch of shrubs that are in the actual wetland, and that would disturb the wetland more potentially. I don't know what other commissioners think. But we typically don't actually plant in the wetland.
So you're thinking just seed? I think that part of the planting was because there was some vegetation, woody vegetation removed.
Correct.
From
That's what.
Okay. Okay, maybe I missed that. I didn't realize that there was nothing there right now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm sorry
I
to
missed
interrupt you.
I missed the last meeting, so,
Sorry about that.
okay.
So
Disregard.
previously there was vegetation there. Yes, ma'am. So yes, basically I was just trying to create that old recreate the old element that was there with the density, and obviously now placing plants that are going to be much more dense and obviously populated in that area, specifically placed in certain areas to make it look fuller and obviously more eco-friendly along with the shade trees that weren't previously there. There was obviously one tree that was the closest one to that area. The other trees that were in the upland review were actually not providing any direct shade into the wetland. So obviously that's why we want to place them where they are on the map in that buffer zone.
Okay. Anyone else? So I saw 1-inch trees. I think that's typically a little bit smaller than we like to aim for, isn't it? 1-inch caliper.
You've done a range of 1 to 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
1-inch tree is, it's small.
Okay. And then let's see, we've had some comment about the spacing of the plants. This says approximately 6 feet apart. I thought, Alexis, we wanted to go no more than 5? What was it?
I I think we said around 5, yeah,
Around 5, okay.
so.
Chairman, if I may say, yeah, it was, you guys had recommended approximately 5 to 6 feet. I just went with the approximate 6 feet, just in
Yeah.
case, obviously, the density doesn't line up properly. But again, they're gonna be approximate, so I think it's just gonna be generic speaking that, in that region.
Okay. And then, Cheryl, are the species of plants, can you attest to being okay
Yes.
with that?
They're all native.
Okay. And then what about the size of the rocks? Any idea, Mr. O'Connor?
I mean, honestly, it really would not matter to me personally. I was thinking, just a generic size speak. I'm not a stonemason. I don't know how rock weighing goes. If it's obviously, if there's sizes that matter better to you guys. I mean, I'm open for this, I guess, the medium to smaller size, just to show that border. Again, we don't necessarily need boulders out there to prove it, that that's the stone wall, the barrier. Again, just something to delineate is
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
Of course.
And can you remind me what happens on the outside of your fence along that north property line? Between the property line and the fence, that's not colored green?
That is actually sorry, I believe it's the Tennessee pipeline and then the waterway city sewer line.
Well, what's happening above ground?
Grass.
It's just grass. Okay.
Grass, lawn, sorry.
Alexis, so what we're trying to do here, Mr. Connor, is we understand that not everyone wants to or can actually get an engineer to create a nice big, highly detailed drawing, right?
Yep.
And so in the spirit of trying to be cooperative and let you move on with your life and us on with ours, I'm gonna maybe start throwing out some numbers to write down and record, and maybe we can either get you to include them on your application, or if Alexis would be so kind as to maybe just write them into a draft resolution. Alexis, are you up for that?
Yep,
Okay. All right. So I would say, can we, Alexis, can you give me like verbiage for like the stones? I'm thinking of something the
oh,
size of
wait,
a.
a draft resolution for tonight?
No, not for tonight.
Oh,
Just for next time.
Okay. Oh my God.
It's-
Okay.
I'm just so,
for
like
stones,
like
For the
this big,
rocks,
I think.
yep, I'd recommend, they're typically, they're called man-sized boulders, but they're smaller than a man, so one dimension, close to 3 feet and another dimension close to 2 feet. So it ends up being, smaller than the two big rocks that you kind of have out there, but similar to, zoom in. You actually have some, there's one still kind of sitting
Still
at the
there.
edge of your, yeah. So at about that size, but up on the ground.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's still some there. It
Yeah.
just they're buried, obviously.
Right.
But those sides,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna propose small man sized boulders spaced at no more than 6 feet edge to edge. And I think they should be placed to recreate the stone little curb that was there previously, as close as can be achieved. Alexis, is that too vague for you?
Well, no, he had, so Mr. O'Connor has a plan, so this, I'm trying to draw and talk, hold on. This, it's not letting me draw. So, hold on a second.
Yep. Right.
And it comes back around like this.
Yes.
So this is a very approximately the wetland area. So here is the split rail fence, and it ends at the end of the fence is a flag. And then this is approximately where you see the silt fence come around to
Right.
this is the stone wall.
Got it.
And so this is the area, well, yes, it's.
So the silt
Our
fence goes around
dimensions are
there.
off a little bit, but, right, so the silt fence is more or less in this location here. And then
Okay.
what is being proposed is a 10-foot wide
Buffer.
buffer, yes, let's see, where does it give me my, it's,
Okay, so how about we say at least 10 feet away from the existing silt fence, we have these boulders no more than 6 feet apart, 2 to 3 feet around, all the way from the fence to the rear wall at the back of the property.
right, which is, sorry, I believe what is shown on his site plan. But yes, the condition can clarify the size of the boulder and the spacing of the boulders.
Okay, great. All right. And then we've got 3, I think, let's make them at least 1.5 inches in diameter.
Okay,
That'd be the trees, Chairman?
Yep.
Okay.
And no more than 5 feet apart. I'm sorry, let me take that back. I'm sorry. The trees, let's try to space them out a little bit. Can we? How far is that, Alexis, do you think? In that 10-foot buffer, how far apart will those trees be?
so along that line, I think there's space for them. You've got a total of, what does this thing keep?
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
kind of annoying.
Hold on, let's see, move this up. And then we'll do a new line. Oops. Kind of bad driving there, but
20,
that
20,
is
20, and
the,
12. So
yeah,
75 feet or
that's
so.
like, yeah, there's plenty of room to, I think, again, I think that the scale of the drawing is off.
Yeah.
But this distance here is close to 45, 50 feet. If you were to go from the end of the stockade fence and arc around to here.
Okay.
But
So
I
that's
think that,
awfully close to be spacing 3 maple trees, I think.
yep,
Okay. So maybe we can get them stretched out somehow. Can we put one farther to the south? Like
Oh, I
maybe
think-
where,
no, that's what I'm saying. I think that you have one here, and one, I think that
Okay.
you have more real estate. The submitted materials are, the dimensions are off a little bit, but I think that he actually, on the spaghetti, there's all this real estate here to plant 3 trees. So I think if there is 1, 2, 3, like depicted on his site plan, I think that is plenty spread out.
okay, so we have the 3 1.5-inch trees spaced equally, starting from the fence to the north, to the stone wall to the south-ish. Anywhere within, I think that 10-foot buffer sounds fine to me.
Okay.
And then the shrubs, we want no more than 5 feet apart. And I think within the wetland, along with the ground cover mix over all disturbed areas from the boulders back.
Okay.
Right, and I think that that's in the Midland mix, approximate wetland and / buffer area.
Yeah, okay. That is as close as I can get us to something that hopefully we can run with. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Catherine? Oh, I thought you saw you reach for your mouse. Oh, there you go. Oh. All right. Okay. Anybody
All right.
else want to add on top of that? Okay. So I think what we're asking very politely of Alexis is to translate that into a draft memorandum that would be ready for us to approve on March 12th,
Got it.
if she'd be so kind. Awesome. Okay.
Chairman, one last thing really quickly.
Mhm.
Mine. I will not be in the country on March 12th.
That's okay. You don't have to be here.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. It sounded like I didn't have to be here, but again, I don't want to miss anything if you guys need me here.
No, but if Alexis asks you to change anything to help with March 12th going smoothly, before now and then, make that
Sure.
happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you all. Have
All
a good
right,
night.
Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Okay. Whew, I didn't expect this to be such a long meeting, guys. S24-632, 35 Weatherbell Drive.
Okay, so this is an application that is continuing from your last meeting. Rid of all the spaghetti. Let's see. And after that meeting, or during that meeting, you spoke with the property owner and applicant and made some strong suggestions for modifications and updates to the site plan as submitted, which I need to. So let me actually get that for you for some reason. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And so Mr. Pascarella, the applicant, is here. If Mike, if you want to give the commission an update, I know that after that last meeting, you and I did meet and kind of tried to help interpret and clarify what the commission was asking for. So I'll give you the floor while I find your site.
Good evening, everybody, and apologize for the long meeting. So I had asked Alexis I believe you requested a site plan. I asked Alexis, sorry, it's been a long day.
Yeah, we're all tired. We're all tired.
Yeah, yeah, trust me, I've been out in the sun all day working and it wipes you out. The short story is Alexis hasn't been able to find a site survey for the plan or anything to that nature. I did reach out to the town clerk's office to clarify if they actually have any site plans dating back to when the property was first developed or subdivided. I have not heard back from the town clerk's office yet, but I believe that those records may have been lost, any information on the property whatsoever. So I have a surveyor on hold that I will get back to after I get back from traveling, which will be Thursday, and ask him to go ahead and get a survey, at which point then we can decide or determine where the delineation line is and work on a more defined site plan. Tonight was a very good learning experience from everything you folks had. And I think I may call the previous guy and ask him to write my site plan minus his scaling. But at that point, we can get a better determination of what you folks are looking for and work together and get this all corrected.
Right.
Yeah, and so then the other issue was so one was kind of the location and quantifying the amount of activity within the wetland area, and then once there is a survey, I think circling back with the soil scientist who indicated that, sorry, I'm trying to find his,
Jay Fain.
Jay Fain, that he ended his wetland delineation at the Tove slope. And I think that for the corrective action, it's important to kind of figure out, did the filling stop conveniently, right at the wetland line, or is there fill over the wetland? But the soil scientist, he has said that he didn't go through the fill to find the wetland line. So I'm still trying to talk to him to confirm whether his line, if he had any indication that there was wetlands kind of landward of his line, and that the fill is not covering the wetlands.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's mainly, and I term it this way, when you're looking at the house, it's mainly on the left-hand side, maybe halfway from the house.
We're
because-
looking at the house. No, kind of both sides. I believe so. Again, we don't have a map that really clearly shows
Right.
the location of the wetland flags. I'm just going on photographs that my staff had taken when they went out there, trying to find little pink flags amongst the trees. But yes, it varies more as you go to the left. Yes.
Correct, because I believe on the left-hand side, and again, once we get the site plan to show that sort of juts out further and further from, I won't say halfway even with the house, but about there. So it's just mainly, I think, the right-hand side over there. So I'll open it up to, well, I'm not the chairman, I'm sorry, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And again, I have a planting plan. I seen what you did with or asked of the previous one. So if I can get a better idea of what you might be looking for, and I can work with Alexis probably within the next 2 weeks to get that all figured out, and hopefully so I don't take as much time of all of yours.
No worries. That sounds great. Yep. And let's good luck with your traveling. Good luck getting a survey. And yeah. Well, are we running out of time, Alexis? We still have time to work on this one, right?
There is still time. Yes, there's we'll just grab it.
And while Alexis is looking at that, is there anything, I put the mountain laurels, I always say cherry laurels, the mountain laurels. Is there anything else you'd be looking for as far as plantings go? Or is it hard to ask that of you before you have?
It's hard to say. I think mostly what we're concerned about is like Alexis said, try to figure out just how much fill is out there and how much of the wetland got covered up, and pulling that back. And then once we see what we've got, then we can talk about how to address it.
Okay, and just trying to, cover all the bases so that,
Yep.
we can get this done. I mean, the sooner I can order the plants and get it taken care of, I think better for everybody. One less thing for you all to check off.
Weather's warming up quick. Alexis?
The receipt date was just at your previous meetings of February 13th. So you have 65 days from that to either make a decision or render a public hearing, and that brings you to your April 18th.
Unless the applicant gives us more time to decide, which he doesn't want to, and I don't blame him.
Correct. So it would be what, your April 9th meeting? Is
Okay.
the,
All right, so we got March 12th next, and then 26th.
Then the 26th, and by the 26th, you're gonna need to know whether to extend that or not.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Just wanted to get that timeline laid out. All right, any other
Okay.
questions for anybody? From anyone? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Pascarella.
Thank you. Again, I almost want to sit through more of these if I had more time because it was all
Boy.
very, I'm sure you'd say, go ahead.
Are you interested in becoming part of the Conservation Commission Inland Wetland? No,
No, to be honest with you, after sitting through tonight, I'd almost say yes, but if between my travel schedule and my work
Yeah.
schedule, it's like, it'd be where in the world is Mike Pascarella? And
No.
with my
Okay.
red
Well,
stripe
thank you
shirt.
for joining us tonight.
Well, I'd say it's been a pleasure
Okay.
and look forward
all
to
right.
that, hopefully
We'll
having
talk to you
everything.
soon, and hopefully you can get that survey done ASAP.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I'll give them a call on Thursday.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
have some time then,
Sounds
and
good.
hopefully they can schedule it real soon. Unless,
Good
of course, Mr. McQuaid gets back to me soon with something. So,
Okay.
okay. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. Who read the meeting minutes? Oh, we lost Heather. She always reads them. Anybody else?
Can't leave.
Go. Just kidding.
I wasn't there, so I can't.
I wasn't either.
I know Ed didn't read
Yep.
them.
They're
We can
probably
table them if you
fine.
want.
They're
I know, I was
probably
just-
fine.
I was just trying to get a rise out of him. All right. I have seen people get a rise out of it. I haven't. It's not pretty. I'll have to say that much. I'm looking at him now. I love it. Move to approve. Any seconds? Help me out here, people.
I'll second it.
Oh, like Catherine's grinning. Just unmute yourself and say second.
I mean, can we second? We weren't even there.
Right, I think,
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's why
yeah.
you're quiet. All right.
Yeah.
so
I'm
these
sorry,
two are
I'm confused.
abstaining.
I'm like, I don't think we can.
Ed, that was a second from you, right?
What?
Can you want to second the approval of the minutes
Oh,
from
sure.
the February 13th? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right.
All right,
Majority of 2.
two.
Conservation initiatives? Anything, Alexis or anyone else?
It is late, but I know that one of the things that you had wanted to talk about was the looking into amending the regulations to extend the upland review area of wetlands to 100 feet. So I don't know if you want to talk about that now. If you want to move forward, we would then take specific steps to send out the proposed revisions and schedule a public hearing. We have to send it out to DEEP and do some other, the Connecticut Department of Environmental Energy and Environmental Protection. At least I think it's 35 days before you have a public hearing, and do some other steps. Or if you want to try to discuss it at the next meeting, or maybe a future meeting when all these are, you have more time. I meant to resend what I had sent previously, which was kind of draft language. And I don't think I added that to your packet. I just realized.
All right, I'll vote.
So-
to have you resend that and let's talk about it next time. Is that okay?
It's fine
Anybody?
with me.
That was mostly, I mean, yeah.
Regulation. Okay, so I'll resend and resend kind of the steps involved, but it's no biggie. And then I also wanted to mention that there is, in the Connecticut State Legislature, there is a House bill pending with, I think it has a public hearing tomorrow before the Environment Committee, HB 5218. And I bring it up to you because I can find it. It's called an act concerning the establishment of riparian buffers and revision of certain inland wetlands provisions. So just wanted to make you aware, there's kind of 3 different components of this bill. And I'll just also say that a lot of bills are raised in our state legislature, and that most bills don't go anywhere. But some bills do. Some bills become a law. So the first is that it is seeking to allow DEEP, again, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the ability to utilize funds that are currently available for stormwater infrastructure to be used for acquiring conservation easements along streams and rivers, and to keep those in a vegetated, protected condition. But they would, so that's one thing. And then the bill says that DEEP shall develop mandatory setbacks for development near streams, rivers, and inland wetlands across the state. And no later than January 1st, 2025, DEEP shall submit such proposed setbacks to the Joint Standing Committee of the Council, and to kind of get an update on what that would look like and how they would do that. I mean, have one to come up with a standard, setback that means anything. And then the third, and this is very similar to what has been required of zoning commissioners, is that the DEEP runs a comprehensive training program. Currently, the state statute says that either at least one member or a staff person has to be go through all of that training. And the language is proposed that the basically that that each member of the Inland Wetland Agency and staff of the agency complete the comprehensive training program.
Is there anything about like paying commissioners on inland wetland agencies in there too, or no?
Any what?
I'm
Sorry?
joking.
Oh.
Anything about commissioners being paid?
Oh, getting paid. Yeah, that would be nice. So, yeah, I mean, that's obviously, we're having a hard time. You have a quorum of 4 right now, like you're on the cusp of not having a meeting. It's hard to find people to volunteer in these positions because they take a lot of work, and I'm all for obviously being informed and educated, but I think it's another hurdle in many ways to make it mandatory. But anyway, so that's the bill that's pending. So I just wanted to keep you in the loop.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds reasonable in terms of the training, because unless they make it much more prescriptive about, and less, ambiguous about what actually should be done in the buffer zones in terms of protecting them, it's left up to people who may or may not have training or interest or
Right.
And those are really important areas to protect.
Yep. Right. And you see this, Connecticut is the land of 169 different municipalities. And though the state has the Wetland Act that kind of spells out for municipalities how they must administer the Wetland Act, there's a lot of variability between the different municipalities as far as how they regulate and how strict they are. So, yeah, very, very curious.
Ed, were you gonna say something?
Well, I was thinking, as long as we're gonna get paid for this, it should be retroactive for at least 20 years.
That sounds
At
about
least
right.
throw in a meal or something, right?
Oh, absolutely, Ed.
Good idea, Ed.
Yeah,
Yeah, your back pay would be pretty good.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the heads up, Alexis.
welcome.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add as part of your comments of staff? Okay. Commissioners, any comments? Okay. Then I will move to adjourn the meeting. May I have a second? Oh, there she was.
There I am.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, thank you
Night, y'all.
everyone for being here.
All right, thank you.
Good night.